This costume was inspired by the skeleton costume at the American Girl store. For this project, you will need a black t-shirt, 1/2 yard of black tulle, 1/2 yard of pink or orange tulle, white fabric paint, glow-in-the-dark fabric paint, 1/4 inch white elastic, black Velcro, patterns from my blog, and the Liberty Jane trendy t-shirt pattern. Both of those are linked below in the description. I'm going to use the hem at the bottom of the t-shirt as the hem for the bottom of my pants. You're going to cut out 2 sets of leggings on the fold. Here you can see the hem I used from the t-shirt. Now lay them right sides together. You're going to pin the 2 sides. And sew them with a 1/4 inch hem. And I used a zigzag stitch so that they can stretch. Now that those are sewn, open it and fold it in half and line up the bottom hems and pin together. Make sure the center seams match and pin those also. Use as many pins as you need to. I'm going to sew around that with a 1/4 inch hem with the zigzag stitch again. Now I'm going to do the waistband. So I fold that down. And I'm going to use the pattern as a guide for how far to fold it down. So it should be to the dotted line. And I'm going to pin that all the way around, making sure that it's even. It needs to be wide enough for the elastic to fit through after you sew it. And I'm also going to sew this with a zigzag stitch, and I'm going to leave an inch opening to put the elastic through. There it is with the opening. Now we can put the elastic through. I'm going to cut a piece of 1/4 inch wide elastic, 11 inches long. And then I'm going to use a safety pin on one of the ends, and I'm going to thread it through the waistband. Just push it through till it comes out the other side, and make sure the other end doesn't get pulled in. And once you have the 2 ends, make sure it's not twisted, that they're flat, and pin them together and sew across. Now that's sewed, so I'm going to pull it open so that it will go back inside and I can sew the opening shut. Now we'll make the gloves. I've cut 4 of this pattern and I've pinned 2 together, right sides together. Sometimes on t-shirt fabric it doesn't matter which side, both sides are the same, but if you do have different sides, make sure the right sides are together whenever you sew. And I'm going to sew on the sides that have the dotted line on the pattern, and I'm doing this by hand because it's so tiny that it can get stuck in the sewing machine, so it's just easier to do it by hand. So there's 3 sides. I sew up one side, knot the thread, cut it, go to the next side, do all 3 that way on both gloves. And once all 3 sides are sewn, you can turn it inside out. Now we'll try it on Grace, see how it fits. You kind of have to stretch it over the thumb to get it on, but then it's a nice tight fit. I'm using the Liberty Jane free pattern for the t-shirt, and I just made it about an inch shorter. And I also used the hem on the t-shirt so I didn't have to hem it. So you want to cut it a little shorter if you don't have to do the hem. Just make sure they're all the same. Also cut out 2 sleeves. So you have 2 backs, 2 sleeves, and 1 front that was cut on the fold. And take the front and the 2 backs and line up the shoulders, pin those together, and then you're going to sew them with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Make sure they're right sides together. Okay, I've got the shoulders sewn there. I'm going to flip it so the wrong side is facing up, and I'm going to fold the neckline down about a 1/4 inch, and I just fold and pin as I go. On the pattern it says to fold twice, but I'm just going to fold once because I want it to be a smaller neck hole. And with knit fabric you don't have to worry about the edges unraveling. I use a lot of pins and going around curves. Alright, and I'm going to sew this with a straight stitch this time, not a zigzag. Really close to the edge. Now I'm going to do the same thing to the sleeves. I'm going to hem them the same way as the neck edge. Fold them up about a 1/4 inch, pin, and then sew really close to the edge with a straight stitch. Okay, I've got both hemmed now, and I'm going to pin them to the armholes on the shirt. So I've got the shirt right side up and the sleeve right side down, so right sides are together. And I start by pinning the ends of the sleeves so it'll be even, and then I pin the center and I go out from there so it'll be nice and smooth. And this time I'll sew with a zigzag stitch. There's both of the sleeves are in now. Now I'm going to fold it and sew down the sides. Now use the zigzag stitch on everything except for the arm and neck hems. Here it is all sewn together. Last thing to do is put the Velcro closure on. I'm using black Velcro so it matches. I'm going to cut it the length of this shirt back. Then I'm going to try it on my doll so I know that the shirt fits nicely. So I overlap the back, and I'm going to fold it under half of what it overlaps, and then I'll pin that down. Fold it back, and I'm going to mark with a pin where it comes to on the other side. And then I'm going to fold the edge to that pin. And then pin it all the way down. Make sure it's straight. Now carefully take it off your doll, and you're going to put the Velcro on. One side goes on the inside of the shirt, and the other side of the Velcro goes on the outside. Then just sew around each piece with a straight stitch, and your shirt's all done. So you're going to wrap your doll in plastic wrap around her legs, chest, and hands. We're going to paint the skeleton on while it's on her body. So we don't want any of the paint to leak through onto her. Once she's covered with the plastic wrap, you can put the pants and the shirt on her. Then I'll do her hands and put the gloves on. And I would suggest putting her head inside of a bag so you don't accidentally smudge the paint on her hair. Here's my glow in the dark and my white fabric paint. I'm going to start with the white fabric paint. I'm going to use the drawings as a guide. So I marked how long that rib cage is, and I drew a line, and then I'm just sketching in 5 circles about the same size, 5 ovals, and then I'm filling them in as smooth as I can. And then using the drawing as a guide, I'll draw in the ribs. So the first rib is at the top of the first oval. The second set is where the first and second oval connect. The third is right in the middle of the second oval. The fourth is where the second and third connect. And so on. For the leg, I'm measuring where it starts by placing the drawing right at the end of the pants. So I'm drawing in the thigh bone. Fill it in nice and smooth. And then the 2 lower leg bones. And those don't come right to the center, they kind of go to the side. Just following along with my drawing, ending right at the end of the pants. And repeat for the other leg, and now we're going to do the gloves. And I just followed her fingers for the finger bones. Each finger and thumb has 2 straight lines for bones, and then kind of a bean shape at the wrist. Mine came out a little larger than the drawing, so I'm just using it as a guide, but I'm using the shape of her hand to know how the bones will actually look. Be careful not to touch any of the wet paint. And now that it's all done, I'm going to put her somewhere to dry. Once it's dry, you can kind of see that there's some of the black t-shirts showing through. And you could do another coat of white and let it dry, but it takes overnight to dry. It takes a long time. And I'm just going to use the glow-in-the-dark paint over the top. It's a little translucent, but it kind of covers up that little bit of black t-shirt that was showing through. So I'm just going to put that over the top of the white. So wherever there's white, I'm tracing over it with the glow-in-the-dark color. And fill in all the ribs. And both hands. And I don't have to be quite as smooth, but I'm making it nice and smooth still. and then do both legs. And then you can let her dry at least 4 hours, but mine took overnight because I live in a humid place. While that's drying, you can make the tutu. And this is how big a half yard is, and I'm folding it over so that we're going to use the whole length of the tulle, how it comes in the store. And then I'm cutting down 10 inches. I do that for the pink and the black. Now I have a really long strip of each color, and I'm going to place one on top of the other, line up the cut edges, and fold in half with the black on the outside. And then I'm going to pin it along the folded edge, making sure the cut edges match up the best that I can. Then you'll sew a 1/2 inch from the folded edge and take a piece of elastic, and it needs to be black because it's going to show through. So if you don't have black, you can color some white elastic with a Sharpie. And you're going to take an 11-inch long piece, and the same way we did the pants, we're going to put a safety pin on the end and thread it through. And to make sure that the end doesn't pull through, I'm clamping it with these hemostats I have, but if you don't have those, you can pin the other end to your pant leg. Just pin it to something that will keep it from pulling through. Once you've got to the other side, make sure that your elastic is still flat, not twisted, and you can match up the two edges and sew them together. Alright, now that it's sewn together, I'm just pulling the tulle around the elastic to make it more even.